Welcome. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome, friends. Thanks for being here. All right. We are starting up with our fourth and final session of our Girls Who Conduct mentorship program and the final one of 2024. So welcome everyone. I'm gonna keep letting some folks in. While I do so, how about everybody say hi in the chat by answering my little opener question. What is something you are looking forward to from now through the end of 2024. So maybe it's a cool upcoming concert you're performing in or conducting. Maybe it's a cool upcoming concert that you're excited to go to attend. Maybe it's something else musical or just like finishing classes and finals. Maybe it's something non-musical. Let us know in the chat what you are looking forward to. Oh, Annie's going to Midwest. Annie, is it your first time going to Midwest?
Yeah, it is. I'm really excited.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So good luck. Take it slow. Try to find a buddy and stay with your buddy. Okay. Wow. Kendra, what's your first non-Western repertoire that you're performing?
I'm playing a piece by Rebecca Clark that has some whole tone scales for viola, and this is the first piece that I performed by a female composer instead of
Wow.
a dead white guy. So
Congratulations. That's exciting. Although kind of a bummer that it took this long, but better late than never. Um, let's see. Yeah, if anyone else is going to Midwest, you should hook up with Annie. You guys could meet there. I typically go, but I'm not going this year, so I won't be able to visit with you, but other people going. Um, what else? Do you see anything, Tanya, that looks cool you want to or ask a question about?
Everyone's doing such cool things. Playing Read 2 in Chicago, the musical, though. That's awesome.
Two is better than read one. Oh, Wibbick, fun, Paulina. This is cool. Okay. Looks like we got a lot of folks here. Yeah, it's absolutely not too late to sign up for Midwest Clinic. You can literally go and like pay for registration. They are live in person. It's just the earlier you go, there's like an early bird registration like discount. But if you're a college student, usually it's way cheap, no matter if you go early or like show up then. It's like kind of the same college student price. So you should go. Okay, some good news and bad news before we get started. So we let you guys know about the schedule, and today we do have Ingrid Martin here with us in this Zoom. And the plan was for Ingrid to present on rehearsal techniques, which was, we planned this back like, I don't know, 6+ months ago. And then it turned out Ingrid got sick. And so Ingrid was rallying and like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get over my illness by now. And she just didn't. So she's feeling still real sick and unable to present. We're so sorry, Ingrid. However, the amazing part about Ingrid being sick is that we actually get a surprise guest presenter today, which is Ingrid's wife, Susan Eldridge. Wave your hand, Susan. Yeah, Susan in that amazing colorful top there. So Susan is also somebody who works in the music industry with a lot of really, really cool topics and things that she's an expert in. And so what we're going to do pivoting today is Susan's taking over Ingrid's presentation day, and she's going to be spending today, starting in a half an hour, presenting on designing concerts with audience engagement in mind, which is really exciting. And I'm super looking forward to hearing about that. And then what we're going to do is check on everybody's schedules for the upcoming spring and figure out if we're going to throw bonus a bonus meeting day on so that Ingrid can come back and do her presentation. What day of the week works best for everybody? So we're going to end up actually adding an additional day. So you get an extra one that you weren't planning on, 9 instead of 8, for Ingrid to come back and discuss rehearsal techniques more. If you can't make it, of course, it will be filmed, but we're really excited for that. And then also super excited for Susan and thankful that Susan was able to jump in so last minute today. So just FYI, we have changed our topic from rehearsal techniques to audience engagement today. All right. So typically we spend this half an hour spending a lot of time on some Q&As, but before we get to that, I do want to do a little check-in activity with batons. So if you do have your baton, if you do have a baton, and if you have it on you, great, let's grab it. If you're like, oh, it's over in my backpack or in the other room, you can take a minute to go grab that as well. If you don't have a baton, or if you're like, wow, I left it at school, whoops, or whatever, a pencil is fine. You could use a pencil or anything else, kind of baton shaped will be fine as well. So we're gonna do just like a little bit of baton activity here for a few minutes, and then we'll get into our Q&A session. Remember, our open general Q&A session for the first half hour is just very broad, and any questions you have for anyone in the room, you could poll the entire cohort of us. You could ask a specific mentor. Tanya's here, I'm here, Susan can speak. Ingrid, I'm sure, would be happy to answer some questions in the chat. So you do have 4 mentors here today. That's awesome. But be thinking about those questions you might have from this last month, or something that you've been thinking about that hasn't been answered yet. So let's respond in the chat to my first question about baton. And I'm talking philosophically here and not necessarily specific to the object, but what is a baton? What does it do? What does a baton do? What is it? What does it do? Throw your answer in the chat. I should come up with like a cute song, Tanya, like, what's a baton? What does it do? It's a metronome right now. Okay. It allows the conductor conduct. Let's see, connect with the musicians. I love that. A communication device. Mads, can you follow that up? How is it a communication device? Because so is a telephone. So is a telegraph. So is our voice. So how is it a communication device? Oliviana, augmentation and extension of the hand and arm. Melinda, a centering device for ensemble to hone focus on conductor's exact movements. Ooh, that's excellent. Very specific. Kendra, creates a way for musicians to communicate. That's true. I would think there's also many other ways too, right? Like our physical body movement, literally like the prep that we can give with our instruments, some eye contact, facial expressions, things like that. Focus is the intention that you want to give with your arms to one point as an extension and a gathering point of your arms. That's Claire. Great work, Claire. Vicky communicates to the ensemble on what you would like to do without speaking. That's great too. Alicia, it's an object that's designed to help the conductor convey the tempo and expression throughout the piece. These are amazing, friends. Yes. Okay, communication. An instrument that doesn't make a sound. Corinne, that's great. I love that one. A focal point. Mackenzie, great. Clear point. Paulina, very exact and literal definition. I appreciate that. Addie, the extension and exaggeration of our hands. Ingrid, very important. Ingrid, our special guest mentor today, says a tool that allows a broader physical vocabulary of the hand and arm and increases visibility for musicians far away. Excellent. Yes, and all elongation of the arm as well. These are all excellent. Oh, very good. We've got like a whole Vladislava, you've got a whole like essay there. I love it. And do you see anything, Tanya, you wanted to say?
I'm reading through that long one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these are great. We should like start a little book of all of your answers. But yes, you got it. But what I did want to draw our focus on is what many of you said is the fact that is the extension of the arm, the extension of the hand. And so if we think about our bodies, you know, we think all the way down to our fingertips, there's a whole host of hinges that take ourselves down, right? So starting from our trunk here or our torso here, what's our first hinge? You can unmute if you want. What's that one? It's the shoulder, right? Okay, that's fine. And moving on from the shoulder, we have our elbow to our wrist and then down to our individual finger digits, right? The baton, in a philosophical way, is just another extension, right? So we have these hinges, and just like the ball socket of our arm in our shoulder or our leg in our hip, this essentially becomes a ball socket holding that baton and allowing there to be potentially any degree of movement, right? From that socket that's now our hand and our fingers. So what a lot of folks who are in the earlier stages of conducting neglect to do that eventually transition into hopefully becoming a more comfortable organic thing is holding the baton in a way that looks organic, comfortable, and fluid as that piece of equipment eventually becomes more part of the body. So let's just do a quick reminder about baton hold. Maybe some of this is brand new for some of us. Maybe this is like, you know, you could do this in your sleep a million times. But essentially, you want to keep your right hand nice and loose and relaxed. A great idea to do is just like shake it out a little bit. Shake it out. This is something I learned from some violin technique when I was learning violin, and I'm not a violinist, but throwing that hand forward with just no energy or any tension in that hand, you'll get a sort of relaxed shape from your wrist through your fingers. And that natural shape, we want to try to keep as much as possible as we then bring our baton into the center of the hand. But placement of this point right here, the handle of your baton is going to be a little bit different depending on your individual hand shape and size, as well as the shape and size of the handle of the baton. And if you're really struggling, it may be that you have a handle that's just not built well for you. So always keep that in mind too. It might not be you, it might be the baton if you're feeling uncomfortable. But getting it in there in that nice relaxed hand, and then just curling the fingers around as gently as possible so that they maintain that kind of shape and relaxation while getting the baton now between the thumb and the index finger. And for me, I typically have my thumb right where the handle meets the shaft. You can see here, I'm trying to show, there we go. I have a little bit of green thread here, and it actually helps me keep my grip so it's not slippy. But I typically put my thumb right there where the shaft and the handle meet. And then I'm going to wrap my index finger around. And the place where I wrap my index finger around is my first digit right there, where my first digit here and my second digit meet. So that joint right there. So we're meeting right there. And then again, all the rest of my hand is really loose and relaxed around it. I want to make it so that if I did want to squeeze my baton a little bit, I would actually get some movement. So you shouldn't be gripping so hard that there's no room to squeeze. Let it be relaxed enough that you can squeeze and grip. And then not so relaxed that you might like, whoops, the baton comes out of your hand. All right. And then the other thing we want to think about is the angle. And so a lot of times younger and newer conductors will maybe have a little bit of an awkward angle in the wrist coming out of the elbow. So what I would like you to do right now, if you're holding your baton, is to just experiment with the rotation and feel like how far can you rotate away? Like, is your wrist pointing up to the ceiling? And then how far can you rotate your wrist in? For me, I can get kind of my wrist rotating to the wall. And so going back and forth like that, almost like you're turning a key, like turning a key in a door. And you'll also see how the tip of the baton reacts as well. And what you're going to want to do is after doing that rotation a good amount is settle in a spot that feels really comfortable and like, once again, that baton is starting to come out of that hinge in a very natural, organic way, as if it is an extension of your body. Let's see folks' grips. And Tanya, maybe if you want to help me out, or Susan or Ingrid, if you want to see, if you see something and you want to make a comment. I'm gonna pin some folks just so we could see. Mackenzie, do you have your baton ready to go? No, you don't. Okay, that's okay. If you have a pencil and you want to try, grab a pencil. Annie, do you have your baton ready to go? It looks like you do. I'm gonna see if I can pin you. Can we see Annie? Did I make her big for everybody? Or no, maybe not. Maybe only I can see her. Can everybody see Annie? She good? Annie Elmore. All right. Annie, can you open your fingers so we can see the rest of your baton? Awesome. Yeah, you got really long fingers, which is cool. I bet you're like a great piano player. But no, not so much. Okay. But let's see. Yeah, if you could wrap like as round as you can with those fingers. Nice. And then see if you squeeze, you get a little bit of a pinch. Just so keep your hand still, but squeeze your fingers. So yeah. See if you can open up just a little bit more so there's some space in that hand. And so when you squeeze, you have just a little bit more movement in that gesture. Yeah, there you go. That's starting to look good. So I would practice keeping that still here, like so that's still, and then the other fingers squeeze so that you get that kind of pinch action going there. Awesome. Okay. Is there anybody else? Let's see. How do I unpin Annie now? Oh, remove. There we go. Anybody else who wants to show, if you have a question or you want to show yours and get some feedback on your baton hold? What else we got going on? How about Claire? Let's peek at yours. Great. Yeah, that looks really good. Your index finger looks like it's coming down just a little bit. See if you can wrap that around just a little bit more to give you some more control. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes folks, and I'm not saying you did this, but sometimes folks will put their index finger going up the baton. And so you do want to avoid that because that'll restrict movement. So keeping that finger wrapped around, and probably that first digit, you should be able to touch your thumb just a little bit as well. Yeah, that looks great. Nicely done. Kendra, I see your question. Do you ever use the counterbalance of the handle when conducting? Can you explain what you mean by that question?
Like if where the thumb and the forefinger are holding on, if that could be like a pivot, and you could, I don't know, because for this baton, it's like if it's a pivot and I touch the handle, then it moves this end.
Oh, I see what you're
So,
saying.
like,
Yeah.
if
So
you-
definitely, I see what you're saying. So the idea I was mentioning before earlier with like the squeeze, right? Like if you squeeze that baton and you're seeing like a little bit of movement there, that is kind of what I think what you're getting at. I wouldn't like do something like this so much because there's a lack of control and it can start to kind of spin on the like XZ axis, if you will. You know what I mean? So I would always keep it in your hand, but like I said, a looser grip with your second, third, and fourth finger does allow for a little bit more control in your hand to be able to kind of make that counterbalance, like little seesaw effect, I think was what you're trying to get at there. So yes, definitely. Chloe, are there different ways to hold different shaped handles? And I don't know if Tanya, you want to jump in on that? Looks like you unmuted.
I've seen it a couple of different ways, and I think it all depends on the shape of your hand, but some people really believe in like, putting like the ball of the baton like in your hand like that. But for me, it feels really, really, we can see it's like it's really, really far up. So I like to think of the I think like one of the most like the balance point I think is where I feel the most comfortable because I feel like it's a little bit more loose and a little bit more relaxed. You guys all know what the balance point is, right? Like you kind of like and like find out where the weight feels even. All right, Vicky's on it. Vicky is demonstrating.
I play violin,
what
so
Vicky-
like and a little bit of cello, so I know a lot about like just holding bows in general. Like I'm trying not to hold it like a violin bow right now.
Yeah, so I think I think the different shapes, I've also, like, if you look at my like the ball of my baton is very different than Caitlin's, right? So you'll see that, oh, look at, is it Lizanne? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. Very
Lesion.
Lizanne. Okay, beautiful. Like, I think if you ever go, especially those of you who's going to Midwest, go to these baton booths and then you can just like try them all, and I have found that like the Mollard one, I was like doing it for years, and I was like, I'm gonna take over the world with Mollard. And then I went to one of these booths and I was like, oh, this feels way better. So you just have to kind of go out and explore them.
And I think sometimes you might see people like who literally like hold the handle, right? Which makes sense. It's called a handle, right? Like, so they're holding the handle. To me, again, it feels less natural because if we're thinking of it like it's this ball joint, right? Like the rest of the joints in your body are, then you do want it kind of in that more open space so that there's room for it to move around. And so the minute you start holding the ball, like the handle itself, it restricts movement, especially like things like rebound and follow through. So anybody could learn to make a baton look beautiful in any way, but I do believe in certain ways make more sense. Okay. So that's all I wanted to do is just do a little quick recap on that. And so, great, maybe for the next month or so while we're off, like just practice and think about your baton hold, maybe like start from scratch back to the basics and like see, maybe take a photo of your baton hold and check if there's any tension or unnatural kind of look or shape to it and see if you can continue to hone that through the next month. But I'm going to turn the time over to Tanya so she can check in with our general questions before we get started with our main course tonight, which will be our audience engagement.
Amazing. Thank you, Caitlin. So as always, we're going to go into a little bit briefly our Q&A. And if you feel like you have a question that you don't want to ask outright and you want to just private message me, feel free to do so. That's totally fine. We have been throwing a lot of information at you and a lot of things, floating around your noodles. So I do have a table question from this time that I think will provide some ideas to some of you. So here's the question that was tabled from last time. I am wanting to pursue an independent study in conducting with one of my professors. She expressed that she would be interested in mentoring me through that, but she was not sure what it would look like as far as the coursework goes because she's an interim faculty or newer to our university. I was wondering if you or anyone else would have any recommendations of ideas to pitch to her or thoughts of what an independent study in conducting might look like. Caitlin, you want to take that one?
Sure. So I would say come up with an end goal, what you want to get out of it, and then build in a sort of sequence of repertoire to help you do that. So if you're thinking, I want to learn how to be a really expressive conductor, then as that goal, select maybe 3 to 5 pieces of music where you feel like that music is very expressive and that being able to conduct that music competently will then demonstrate that you can conduct expressively. Then maybe with that, your teacher's help, put them in an order from potentially like most straightforward or easiest to like most advanced and challenging, and then just start to chip away at it in that way. And she should, if she knows that's your goal and then that's the repertoire, she should be able to come up with these sort of exercises or techniques or concepts to help you along the way. But I would frame it in that larger way to help her help you. That would be my way of doing it. But I'm sure maybe Ingrid, you might have another answer if you want to type in the chat, or Tanya.
Yeah, so first of all, I love that it's a she. Yay, super exciting. Super cool. One of the things I think that's really special about doing an independent study is that you're able to get, I think what you want out of it in a very specialized way. It's not just lesson, it's not like a group conducting class. You're able to kind of tailor it to something that is meaningful to you. So think about like, with all the things that we have been talking about, if there's a topic that you are really passionate about, maybe consider kind of exploring that a little bit more, okay? All right, I'm gonna open it up to other questions that you may have in the next couple minutes. Melinda?
Yeah, so as we approach music conference season, for friends that are new to the educator side of it, how do we go about structuring our day and our time that we have to get the most out of the experience without just being completely overwhelmed by everything, in your opinion?
Caitlin is the pro at conferences, so you start us off, Queen.
So you're gonna see, sessions being offered throughout the day. And so I typically will choose like what's my top session that I would want to go to in any given time period. But then if you do go to every single one of those, like that is your day. So then what I would try to do is based on the day's selections, rank which ones are most important to me that I want to make sure I don't miss. Also keep in mind that sometimes if a session's extremely popular, it may fill up, aka sell out, and you can't make it in. So if it's really important to you that you make one that looks like it's going to be really popular, you may not want to attend a session right before or leave it early to make sure that you get into the second session. Also, popular ones, sometimes they'll do multiple times a day or on multiple days of the conference. So just kind of cross examine and list if they have them at multiple times. After that, I think I mentioned rank the ones that are most important to you so that if you decide, oh, my friend wants to grab coffee or there's this unique opportunity or like we're going to take a little bit of a late lunch, that you can kind of plan to skip some of the ones that maybe didn't feel as important. You can always swing by too and see if you can grab a handout. A lot of times the app or conference website will also have the handouts online. So you may be able to get a lot out of just a handout, even if you can't attend. But I would keep yourself really flexible because you never know who you're going to meet, where they're going to take you. I remember one time I went to a conference and ended up at like an after party with like the entire band staff at University of Texas at Austin and a bunch of composers like at somebody's Airbnb just because I happened to be hanging out with the right people at the end of a concert. So just be open and flexible. Make sure you try to get a combination of technical sessions, concerts, performances, spend time in the exhibit hall so that you can like learn about different products or composers or publishers that might help you. You get to try out instruments. There's a lot of really great things there. And then make connections, meet people. Don't be afraid to just like come up and say hi. I've made some really like lifelong friends, actually two people who I'm in their wedding party this year. I met them at conferences because I came up to them. I'm like, hey, we're both young women who are the same age, surrounded by like a bunch of older men at this concert. Like, let's be friends. And then, we are like lifelong friends because I wasn't scared to go up and say hi. So those are my pieces of advice, and I'm sure there's lots more.
Caitlin swept us all off with that, so I will leave that question. All right, next question, go ahead.
Hello. I was wondering how you like when in a like rehearsal situation, how to maintain like a whole ensemble's focus and participation when focusing specifically on an individual player or like a small section, because people just like zone out, and how to like make the most of the time and stuff.
Could I ask what kind of context you're thinking of? Is it like in your school? Is it in your youth orchestra?
Yeah, like either because like I've done a bunch of school conducting, and like when focusing on one section, everyone else just kind of sits there and it feels like a bit of a waste of time. And then in the youth orchestra, like the conductor will be doing the same thing, where she kind of just says to follow along you with your part, and I feel like that's not making the most of what you could be doing.
Oh, Ingrid is the boss of this, apparently, but Ingrid will will type it into the chat. So I'll go first. So I'm a string player. So this is a huge thing for me. I really believe that this is like classroom management 101, is that understanding how people kind of like I tell them all the time, like I hate it when kids sit there. I like don't just sit there. So I have them do what's called shadow bowing. So they like play with their left hand and they put their bow like on their arm, and then they move the bow with them without making a sound. So that they're actually like, all right, you know, like here we go, first violin, we're gonna go ready, and everyone else shadow bow with us. So in that kind of context, they're physically understanding how their part fits in. And they're understanding also like how to kind of also work on their part in that time as well. I know that in choir they do like humming, they do like do's so that you can kind of half the sound a little bit. In band you can ghost, right? So like you're like doing all the fingering, you're doing all the things, you're doing all the rhythmic thing, but you're just not blowing air into the instrument or physically hitting it if you're percussionist. But to me, like that's like a really, really, I think, important way to engage everybody and continually to do so, because I think like especially in the if you're talking about like your schools and your youth orchestras, chances are like people like I don't want them to feel that they're like, oh my gosh, the cellos are working on their part again, or you know, but you kind of really, really want to invite them to like, all right, listen to this cool part from the cello, and you're really working on it with them. And also providing them like, you know, space to learn it a little bit more. Caitlin, do you have anything to add to that? I know Ingrid also typed in something in there in the chat as well, and Susan.
Yeah, giving them like things to like hear from what's being performed and like, oh, did you like that? Should we move on? Did like, well, how was the articulation? Like, how would you give them feedback? Sometimes, if it's the rhythm is the problem, I'll have the whole ensemble learn the rhythm together, like on one pitch, or be like, okay, you've heard the melody now, hum along with them. Now learn it by ear and play it on your instrument in unison. So I think there's a lot of ways. If you make that the goal of like, okay, I have to fix this, but actually the goal is everybody working together, then just kind of figuring out what you're trying to fix and how can everybody else help with that fix.
And I think that's all the time that we have for this portion for now. So Caitlin, you want to transition us into the next thing?
Awesome. All right. So we are going to get started with our very surprise, impromptu, and exciting topic today on audience engagement and thinking about how we are centering an audience's experience in a performance and from the planning stages forward. And so for that, we have Susan Eldridge, who's going to be our surprise guest presenter today. Susan, I'm going to have you share a little bit about yourself since we did not have the opportunity to share your bio with our students ahead of time. But Susan is Ingrid's wife, and so they are together right now in Auckland, and I'm gonna let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Can I firstly check that you can all hear me okay? Can I get a double thumbs up? Great. So my name is Susan Eldridge. My pronouns are she, her. Before we get started, can I just get you to take your fingertips up, tickle the ceiling. We're just gonna have a quick stretch. Tickle the walls, down to the floor, but don't headbutt the desk because that's really bad. Just wiggle your feet. If you've got shoes on, feel your feet in your shoes, or like me, no feet, just on the floor. Just have a little squizzle for a second. Get the blood going again. Great, fantastic. So welcome everybody. Today, Ingrid and I are joining you from a city called Tamaki Makaurau, which is in a country called Aotearoa. So we are in the city of New Zealand, in the country of city of Auckland, country of New Zealand, and I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Maori people, pay respect to their courage and strength and their continuing legacy, and acknowledge the elders of their communities. So if you don't know where New Zealand is, Ingrid, have you got a little, Ingrid was just going to show you a map because it's a tiny country. Just to show you, she'll share screen, just so you get a bit of a mental map of where we are in the world today. And now she's giving me the finger, the conductor finger. So she'll throw that in a second. But yes, Ingrid's unwell. She's lost her voice. So you know those TikTok videos that AI transcribe and put the voice over? That's all I'm hearing all day today. It's like, what do you want on the shopping list? Please make me a cup of tea. So I've just had the AI robot voice in my house all day. And if we can just, what I'll need you to do in our session today is you will need to be able to type. So we'll be doing some stuff in the chat and on a tool. And then ideally, if you can unmute, if you feel okay to unmute yourself. If you can't unmute, you'll be able to do the activity by typing. But can we just start by getting you super quick to type in the chat, what city and country are you in? And also, here's my challenge question for you. In one word, what is a food that should never go on top of a pizza? Go. City, country, food that should never go on a pizza. Oh, yes. I'm going hard. Avocado. Jelly beans, hard yes. Olives, yes. Dog food, thank you so much. Yes. Anchovies. Strawberries, gross. Yeah, I'm with you, Addie. I also think banana should also never go on a pizza. Cherries, fish, yes, we're vegetarian. Great. Excellent. So I was just doing that cheeseburger pizza. Oh my gosh. Gross. Peanut butter. Good to know that your typing is all working. So what we're going to do today, I'll show you the session break time in a minute to show you how we're going to use the time. But fundamentally, Ingrid was going to be talking to you about rehearsal techniques today. But why do we rehearse? We rehearse because there's most likely to be a performance, a gift of music where we create a circle and we share with other people. So we rehearse because we want to create and make music for and with other people, right? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And I will just show you the breakdown. So you've got a mental map of what we're going to do. And to check that the screen sharing, is that screen sharing working okay, Ingrid? Yep. So this is what we'll do today. I'm going to talk at you super quick for 5 minutes because we're doing a speed version. Then you'll go in a breakout room with a friend and you'll do a game. Then we'll come back and do a quick, what did we come up with in our game? 10-minute brain break. Then we'll do a different game, but probably the same person in the breakout room. Again, come back for everyone to share, and then we'll do a learning reflection. So that's my plan for what we're going to do today. Are you all okay with me so far? We're all good? Cool. And if there's anything that you're confused about, if I say some weird word, you're like, I don't know, she's from Australia, what does that mean? Please ask Ingrid or Lyciane also to translate anything for you, or reach out if you're confused about what's going on. So really, with rehearsals and thinking about performances and audience engagement, often what happens as conductors is the process starts with, oh, what do I want to conduct? Or maybe, what does the band need to play to build their skills? That would also be pretty good, right? A good place to start when we're thinking about repertoire. But actually, we're going to completely flip the script and break the rules today. And we're going to start with, well, what does the purpose of this musical experience serve in the lives of the people who are coming? So we're not going to start with repertoire that we want to conduct. We're not going to start with repertoire that we think the group might want to play. We're actually going to start with creating an experience of which music is part integral to meet the needs of somebody else. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to give you an example person who's our ideal audience member. And then you're going to build out what this experience is going to be for them, because eventually down the line, we'll get to the repertoire, which we want to be diverse and interesting and representative, right? But we're not going to start with that. We're actually going to start with designing the experience. And I also, Caitlin, I acknowledge you did ask me to share a bit about myself, but look, I've got all the links to that later. Hopefully you feel pretty safe and seen right now, and that's my most important thing. So the person that I've come up with is, and I will put everything in the chat for you too. Our ideal audience member is called Charlene. And I'm just going to intro, this is Charlene here. Charlene's a real person. So Charlene, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Charlene so that you can get thinking about what kind of experience that has music in it that you might want to design. So Charlene has a long-term partner, 2 teenage kids who live at home, and a small group of girl squad from school days and church. Charlene works a fast-paced job. You can see up there when you click on this, Charlene's actually a paramedic. So Charlene works irregular hours and really appreciates things that are a bit flexible. Charlene knows that being fit and healthy and managing stress is really important to their ability to care for others in their job as paramedic. Charlene feels really important that the job that they do helps other people. And Charlene likes doing things that are relaxing because Charlene's job's pretty stressful. And Charlene's exciting hobby is dog training. That's what Charlene does. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you in a second to go into breakout rooms in pairs, and I want you to come up with some answers to these essential questions here. So what is the event that we're going to make for Charlene, and why is it suitable for them? Why would Charlene come to this experience? And what purpose is it serving in Charlene's life? When and where would it be held that it's suitable for Charlene to attend? And how will Charlene find out about it? And then if you get through that really quick, you've got some extra questions in here about who would they take, how much would it cost and who would pay, what would Charlene put on Insta, snacks, because, you know, let's get real, we love a snack. And what story would Charlene tell at work the next day to their colleagues about this experience that we went to? So my only rule is, this is not a concert. Ingrid, can you give us some examples of what a non-concert, non-performance thing might be? You're going to put it in the chat. So as an example of something that is not a concert, ta-da, drum roll. Yeah, she's typing. Can you type faster? Here we go. So Ingrid has created for Charlene a facilitated group sing-along at the end of the dog training session. There's going to be a 4-piece band. It takes requests of Taylor Swift songs. So that's kind of I really want you to stretch your imagination, and there are no prizes, but you'll have my eternal gratitude for honestly the stupidest, craziest, wildest thing you can come up with, because we're not going to live in the world of repertoire. We're living in the world of creating experiences, of which music is really important part of. So are you clear on what we're going to do? That you're going to go in pairs, you're going to answer those essential questions, and I will yes, awesome. And there's also a Spotify playlist that helps Charlene manage her emotions. So when you go to the Padlet, and I'll put the Padlet in a second, if you click on this button here, can you all see there's a little cross in the, if you click on that, it'll pre-populate you. So you want to add your names, who's making this crazy thing up. And these are the questions: what, why, where, when, and how. So I'll put the Padlet in the chat, and you'll be in there for, we'll say, 8 minutes. We're going to be quick. So a quick game is a good name. As silly, honestly, go bonkers as silly as you can. So can I get you to, Caitlin or Tanya, to put everybody in breakout rooms randomly in pairs for 8 minutes?
I'm just going to make you and Ingrid co-hosts, so then you don't in the rooms.
And if you're confused, just send us a message or pop out of the breakout room. So if I can just get you to click on that Padlet, that'd be great. Yep, I can see people popping in there now. So go make some crazy experiences for Charlene. And you've got those bonus questions there if you get through the first really quickly. We'll give you a time check. We'll give you a 1-minute time warning before we pull you back from the breakout room, okay?
Okay, you're going to be assigned automatically, and here we go. All right, good luck, have fun.
Paulina?
Oh, there she goes.
Right, they're
This is
all in there.
amazing. Oh my gosh, teaching me so much.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, honey, you've lost your voice today. Can you say something so we could, Tanya and Caitlin can hear you?
I'm tempting to say hi.
Oh my God.
That's really bad. Last month, my voice was about that bad like 2 days before. And then by the day of, I was like, okay, guys, we could do the thing. But yeah. Not that bad.
I can do ASMR talking.
I feel like whispering is really like, it's hard on the voice when you whisper.
Yeah, we Googled good techniques, things to do. It's like self-care when you lost your voice and it says don't whisper.
Oh gosh.
No, which is so hard.
Yeah.
This is really cool. I liked your approach with like the make a concert for this one person. based on other stuff. You're muted, Susan.
Classic. I'm just zooming back to 2021 when we forgot how to Zoom. Yeah, normally I get them to come up with, and what I learned, this is actually Ingrid's activity, and we teach it in my college classes a lot, is they generally pick someone who's about who they want to be in 2 years' time. That's about their cognitive event horizon. So we learned after the first time we ran it to say to people, it needs to be someone as different from you as you can possibly imagine: age, location, occupation, all that sort of stuff.
That's awesome. This week I'm going to give a concert. It's like a time machine concert. And so I've spent this weekend staining old-timey letters with tea so they look antique, and we're hiding them in the audience. And so the Pony Express writer who's one of the students, has delivered all these letters out in the audience, but one of them has a treasure map in it, which is going to and the treasure map is the audience, and the front row is where like the gold is hiding, and we need the golds before we can leave this time period. And so the one person who opens that gets the treasure map to find the gold, but the rest of them are all like historic people from our area. So it's like John Muir, who was like a big environmentalist, like he lived in our area. And then the guy that like founded and like everything's named after in our area, like he wrote a letter. And then like there's like a Chinese railroad worker, and there's like a woman who's moved to San Francisco, and like, so like even if they don't get the golds, like they still have this cool little letter.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
That's
What
awesome.
an experience, Caitlin.
I get bored in concerts, so I'm like, I'm doing this for myself. I'm like, how would I not be bored if I concert?
Especially, is it for your college band, Caitlin?
Yes.
Yeah, especially because not all the parents are musicians.
Well, and like even like college, like parents stop coming.
Yeah.
Kids go to college, you know what I mean? So it's like a way of just giving them something interesting. Oh, I want to come do that. Like, I don't want to come listen to music, but I want to come do a puzzle and sing along to the mamas and the papas and some other stuff.
We had we just talk about stupid kind of performance ideas, and one of the ones we're desperate to get up is, a few years ago we got there's an exercise class called Zumba. Guys, yeah,
Oh,
shake
yeah.
your booty kind of thing. And we got Australia's top Zumba instructor, the one who teaches all the instructors, like the master instructor. And with our youth orchestra, we were going to do Zumba with live orchestra, basically like hooked on classics. I know, Tanya, right? But like 80s throwback. So get on your leg warmers and, your aerobics America style. And we were going to do it in this like 1,000 people school hall, and just do like a 10 a.m. and a 1 p.m. 1 hour workout class, like Zumba with live orchestra to all those hooked on classics tunes. We're still desperate. We're desperate to make that thing happen. I think it'd really go off.
Susan, I've had like literally an identical idea with my summer like semi-pro band. Because we do like an outdoor gazebo in a park. And so I thought it'd be really fun to have like, yeah, exactly like you, like a workout thing. That's awesome. If you make it happen, let me know how it worked. And then
If you make it happen, let us know how it works.
It was because I got the music for Flashdance, like what a feeling. And I was like, oh, we have to have like a literally like 80s workout concert with that.
And I want to see you, Caitlin, doing this across the back of the chair with the water.
Well, that group is still getting used to having a woman as a director, because in 112 years, I'm the first woman director, and I wore what was it? I wore a shirt that like wasn't this high, and they could see the top of my chest, and they were like, one of the women was like, I saw your breasts, like told me that. I'm like, well, first of all, you didn't, and second of all, is it making everyone uncomfortable? Because if it is, I guess I can just, I don't know, wear a bag over my head or something if that's preferred. Uh-oh.
Where'd she go?
Oh, maybe she went into,
In her room?
I think she went into a room to check.
Got it. It's almost time for the break, right? For the girls.
Yeah.
I feel nauseous, so I'm like, ugh.
Like you don't feel good right now? You're sick?
I don't know. It's been happening like often. I think I'm stressed, but I'm like, we're everyone's stressed. It's fine.
No, you're allowed to be extra stressed to the point of being sick. I mean, you shouldn't be, but like that can make you sick.
Yet here we are. This is fascinating to me because I'm trying to think more creatively, and this is helping me. So I'm really excited.
Yay.
Do you have one of these cases too?
Yes.
Mine is like frayed. How old is yours?
I don't know, 6 years old?
Mine is like 8.
Huh.
Oh, you got one of those leather babies.
Ooh.
So fancy. Yeah, I like. Does your tip get black too? Like, look at my tip.
Yes, mine does.
I feel
I
so.
think it's like the paint wore off.
Is that what it is? Oh, yours
Yeah.
too, Ingrid?
That's bad, Ingrid. That's worse than mine.
Mine is like real dark, but it like, I don't know. I got mine from Custom Baton. This little dot. That's what
That's
that is.
mine too, yeah.
Wait, you're a Custom Baton girl? Oh,
What?
yeah.
Ah, wait, do you have the thread?
No, no thread for me. Should I get a thread? Like red?
I like it. It's super grippy.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I use Baton so much. Like so much. This is my weapon.
So Susan, we typically give them a 10-minute break at the 50. And so, okay, after the 1 minute, should we send them, like, we'll bring them back in and then send them on break?
Great, thank you. Cool. Are you, Caitlin and Tanya, have you got the Padlet up there?
Oh, to share?
Yeah, no, just for you. Can you see it?
No, I didn't pull it up yet, but I can.
That's okay.
I can see it. It's people actually are starting to post now, so that's good.
Good. Yeah, they normally, what I often find is they talk it all through and then do a quick dump when you give them there's 30 seconds to go. So then they don't tend to write as they're going because they're classical musicians and they're worried about getting things perfect. So
Yes.
Well, and we go into our 10-minute break, so maybe somebody wants to spend some of that time writing theirs. Which
absolutely. Yeah,
should we play What a Feeling during the break?
I think you should. I love this. Melinda and Zoe came up with she's got a live 4-person band that rides in the back of the ambulance and they play the Bee Gees Staying Alive so she can give CPR at the right rhythm.
Oh my God. Stay alive. Stay alive.
Yeah, you can too.
See, we need to live more in this world of stupidity and then we can dial it back to sensible. But if we don't try and be stupid, then we just stay in the world of.
I love being stupid. It's my favorite.
We're going this time next week. We will actually be at the world premiere of this concerto for drag queen and chamber orchestra. So it's one of the queens who was on Canada versus the World, RuPaul's Drag Race, that version from New Zealand, and they've commissioned it. And they're doing this trumpet concerto in full drag with a chamber orchestra next Sunday afternoon.
So the drag queen plays trumpet?
Yeah, they're a professional trumpeter, played in the Navy band here. Yeah.
Amazing. Can other people play the concerto? Is it only trumpet playing drag queens?
Well, I mean, we need more trumpet playing drag queens, don't we?
Right. It's like you're allowed to play this, all these men, but you have to be in drag to do it.
Wow. At Midwest, all the helmet head people with the turtlenecks and the patches on their elbows.
Everybody could use a little more drag in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy as soon as we can get. Do you want to close the breakout rooms now? I think that's given everybody time and there's excellent stuff. And then we can go straight to break.
Maya, how'd it go in your room?
Yeah.
Good to see you smiling, Maya. That looks like there was a bit of stupidity happening in the breakout room.
No, not at all.
Welcome back. Welcome, welcome. All right, friends. I hope you had a good time in your breakout room. We enjoyed seeing some of these ideas start getting up on the Padlet board. We are at the 55, and so we're a little past our normal break time, but we're going to start our 10-minute break now. So we're at the 55, and we'll come back at the 10-minute break right now. If you want to mute your audio and screen, that's totally fine. I think we're going to play some music while you're waiting. If you didn't finish typing in your idea, please feel free to do so during the break. If you have a question, you want to pop up and ask a question while you're waiting, but otherwise we will see you at the 5. You have 10 minutes. Thank you. Hannah, did you need something?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So
Yeah.
I'm a high school student. I'm a high school senior. So when you guys are talking about like these conferences, I don't really know what they are.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. Okay. Are you like, I'm trying to think. Do you know like, what would you have in what school do you go to again? Like what area are you in?
I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay. Does your school your school does like debate and like Model UN and
Yeah.
like stuff like that, right? So like you kind of like do a field trip and go to this like big thing where everybody's doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So when you progress into like the profession of choice, which we'll talk about music, but basically all professions have professional conferences. Or sometimes they'll call them a clinic, or sometimes they'll call them like no, it's pretty much conference. I'm trying to think if any clinic or conference. And essentially what it is it'll be like a long weekend or up to like a week where you register ahead of time. So you have to like pay money and like fill out a registration form. And it can be like a ton of money, or it can be pretty inexpensive. And then sometimes like there might be like a college or a student level registration fee that's like way more affordable than the professional one. For music, what it typically looks like is you show up to this place. Frequently, it's either at a conference center somewhere in the country or world, or sometimes it's hosted like at a university that has like a decent amount of space they can dedicate to this. And it'll essentially be an opportunity for experts in the field to present sessions, kind of like we're doing today. So like Susan could present a session on like audience engagement, and they're usually 50 minutes to like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And they're like lined up, like if the conference has, 10 rooms, there might be 10 different sessions happening all at once. And so you'd get a catalog and be like, which one do I want to go to at 8 a.m.? And then you show up to like the 8 a.m. one, and then there'd be like maybe a 10 or 20-minute break, and then something else starts at, 10 a.m. And so it's like a mix and match of like, I'm going to go to this session and then that session. And it's just a bunch of different professionals focusing on like how to, for instance, if it's a music education one, it'll be like how to teach better, how to help your clarinet players learn to go over the break, how to reframe using a bow, new like how to incorporate traditional African rhythms into your music classroom. Here's a new piece of technology. Let me show you how to use it. So if you want to get that piece of technology for your classroom, they'll also typically be like performances. So again, if it's like PMEA, which actually I'm going to be coming and doing an honor band in Pennsylvania in February, I think. One of the regions.
If you know which one, I am
Let me
in
look.
band.
Oh, what if I'm doing yours? That'd be so cool. Okay, let me double check. Shoot, which one is it? I'm doing PMEA Region 5.
I don't know if I'm Region 5 or Region 3.
No, wait, I lied. That was last time. Region 6.
Region 6. Okay.
And it's in March, on March 6th, Region 6.
I
And
would have to double check.
okay, no big deal, but that would be cool. You were in the band. But anyway, so PMEA would have one. Like you could go to the Pennsylvania Music Educator Association conference. And then so there'll be like performances, and the performances are typically folks from Pennsylvania. So it'd be like maybe a great junior high orchestra, and then some high school bands and some college groups. Maybe one of the military groups would come perform. And then it's a great chance to network. So like when you're not at sessions or concerts, you're like hanging out with your friends from all over the country, like meeting up with your girls who conduct squad, or like somebody that you did a conducting symposium with, or like someone you went to college with. So for me, my friends are all over the country, and sometimes the only time I can see them is like at Midwest Clinic in Chicago. And so the states have their own. The Midwest Clinic in Chicago is like kind of like the national one.
Mhm.
The one in Texas, that's the Texas State one, TMEA, is like huge too. So a lot of people from outside of Texas will come to that one because it's
Mhm.
really good. And then there's also one, so that's like general music, and then there's also ones for each area. So like the choral people have choral, what do they have? I forget. I'm blanking on what the choral one's called, but the choral people have,
ATDA.
thank you. I'm sorry. ACA. Sorry. And then there's the orchestral people have Asta, like the string one. And then
Mhm.
like band people have a few different types depending, like there's marching band specific, there's
Yeah.
concert band specific. One I go to is the College Band Directors National Association. So it's like just for college band directors, but anyone else can still come. It's just like the focus is on college stuff. And then there's ones all over the world too. So there's WASB, which is the World Association of Symphonic Bands and Ensembles, and they'll have an international conference every year, and sometimes it's in America, but last summer it was like in Korea. Um, yeah, so you should go, especially when you're still like a student, because the student price is so much cheaper than the price. But yeah, let me
Okay.
look at your PMEA one and I can send it to you in the chat.
Okay.
It's April 9th through 12th.
Okay.
And it's in the Poconos. Does that sound familiar?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And if your band director's going, like usually high schoolers aren't going yet because it's like
Mhm.
you're still figuring out what you want to do with your life, but usually a lot of college students will. But talk
Mhm.
to your band director and see if your band director's going, and maybe like if they're cool bringing like a chaperone and a couple students, you
Mhm.
could go and like get a hotel or stay in an Airbnb, or if like you have a relative nearby, you could just stay with your relative.
Yeah.
Typically high schoolers only go if you're performing at it. And then
Yeah.
that's like kind of like a big like a like a big honor to get selected to perform.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Oh, Melinda, good idea.
I had a quick question. Just a small one. I was wondering if when you were in middle school or high school, if there were any honor bands that you were a part of that like stood out.
Like me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I only ever did county because I'm in California, and California's
Mhm.
the most populous state in the country. So
Uh-huh.
it's like impossible to get into the honor bands there. And the one year I tried, I procrastinated and had the flu when I was doing my recording, so it didn't go well. But I would say my senior year county honor band, we did Jack Stamp, the composer, came and was the conductor. And the music he picked I thought was really fun. And then I got to play piccolo, which as a flute player, like, I don't know, I love playing piccolo. So that felt like a great opportunity. What about you?
Um, I live in Washington. So I
Yeah.
did junior all state. Freshman year I did all Northwest. I was in the Wind Symphony and I worked with Dr. Moss. And then last year I did all state. Um, who did I work with last year? Oh, Dr. Cornett. I worked with Dr. Cornett
Okay.
last year. And
I
then
was there too. I just did a different band. I did the
yes,
small.
no, I saw you. I talked to you a little bit the night of the
Yeah.
concert. And then this year I just found out I got accepted into the All Northwest Orchestra on
Amazing.
oboe. So I'm super excited for that. I
You know
forget
who
who
the
I'm
conductor's gonna be yet?
I forget. I definitely know it's like in the information packet, but I
Oh, that's
forget who it is. And then this year I signed up for WIBIC. I've never done WIBIC before.
Olympics
So
cool.
that's like next weekend, which is like, oh, that's soon.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see how that goes. And then PLU Honor Band. This will be my third year. So those have been really fun.
Yeah, I did PLU honor band 2 years ago, I think. That's a great one. I really loved that one. Yeah, I didn't perform in as many as I get to conduct now, and I wish I had done more. But I was like the oldest kid in my family, and my parents didn't really know like to put me in honor band. So, all right, it is 5 after the hour, friends. We all coming back together? Go, Lutz. All right, Susan, if you are ready, I'm going to let you take back over and we'll continue chipping away at this.
Fantastic. I will. Just 1 second. Ingrid was just asking me to share something that I think she needs to share. Cool. I hope everybody had a stretch. So we're going to move slightly more now into we've designed these amazing experiences, and I love the idea of a live 4-piece band playing "Stayin' Alive" by the Bee Gees in the back of the ambulance, so Charlene can do the CPR at the right pulse. This is exactly the stupid space, wonderful space we want to be into. What we want to think now as a conductor is it's kind of, especially when you get to choose the repertoire, is it's our experience, our responsibility, not so much to start with what do I want to conduct, but to think about, well, what emotional journey can the music take Charlene on? Because we don't want to have a concert or a music experience where the feelings in us are really flatline. I'll use another medical analogy, right? That's pretty boring if all the music's kind of emotionally the same. Like that's when you're asleep by 7 minutes in. Okay, so what we want to have a think about is actually almost like the heart rate monitor of thinking about having some peaks and troughs emotionally to take Charlene on. So if we think about it this way, and I'm using a very reductive, very simple explanation, but we've kind of got calm pieces, and then we've got pieces that are a bit happy, and then we've got really, really happy pieces. So we've got 2 steps up from calm, and then we've got 2 steps down from calm, which would be a bit sad and really sad. So we just want to, for the purpose of this activity, think about, we've got 5 steps we could take Charlene on, from like ecstatic down to pretty happy, down to calm, sad, and really sad. So I'm just going to show you on the Padlet what I want you to go back and do, and I'll put the link in a second, is you can see, just checking, Melinda, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the Padlet okay? Sweet. So here's our very sad, calm, bit happy, very happy. So I've decided in my team that I want Charlene to have 2 really happy pieces first, then a very sad piece. So we're going to go from really high to really low, and then we're going to finish the experience in a really calm way. So what I want you to do is go back in your group, in your breakout room, and have a chat with your colleague about what's the shape that you want to take Charlene on, or that makes sense for the experience that you've made for Charlene. And then just go back and click on the entry you put in. And I want you to just write the words like this in your shape, and also use this thing here called the feeling wheel, which has really awesome emotional feeling words, to actually put a word beside that. So for me, I decided that I want my first piece for Charlene to be like worshipful, rapturous is the first feeling. Then the second feeling, I want really happy, but I don't want that rapture. I want a bit of, wink, wink, a bit cheeky, Saturday Night Live. Then the really sad piece, I want that to be about feeling isolated, and then a bit sad, melancholy, so not, really distressed. And then we want to leave the end of the experience with Charlene feeling serene. So that's what I want you to do now, is to go back into your breakout rooms. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. That's all you're going to get, and to add that shape using those very happy, a bit happy, calm, a bit sad, very sad, and putting the feeling word beside it, because that'll then guide the repertoire that you want to choose for this experience. So can I get a thumbs up if you are feeling clear about what we're doing? Can I get a hands to the sky if you're absolutely confused, which is awesome? No hands. Great. Awesome. Caitlin, Tanya, are you okay to put everybody in just for 5 minutes this time?
Yep. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
Claire and Chloe and whoever's iPhone, I think you got pulled out of your room. Do you remember what room number you were and I can put you in it?
10.
Claire, you're saying 10, okay. And then, let's see, assigned to 10. And then Chloe, were you also 10? Great. And whose iPhone? Mystery iPhone.
iPhone, are you there?
Oh, Caitlin, hi. Do you remember what room you were in?
Was it 10?
Well, they were in pairs. Let me see. Were you in room 4 with Lucine? Do you remember that? Oh, okay. Shoot. Okay. Let's see.
That's okay. We could just, if you weren't sure, we can just have a chat if you got any questions.
Okay, so yeah, Caitlin, I think you just showed up, didn't you? Okay. Oh, you're on the subway. Cool. All right. Well, we're in breakouts right now, kind of prepping. A whole lot happened since you signed in late, but Ingrid, who was supposed to present today, is actually sick and she lost her voice. So her wife, Susan, is presenting instead. Hi, Susan. And she is presenting on audience engagement so that Ingrid can still present on rehearsal strategies at a later date that we're going to add to our program. So everybody's in breakouts right now, kind of using a real life person in mind to help try and shape like what would make an interesting, engaging concert concept for this person. So you're gonna be able to check out everybody's work when they come back in a few minutes and see what they did.
Maybe
Okay.
Caitlin, you could have a think about, so our person is Charlene, who is a paramedic and likes to try and stay calm outside of work and is a dog trainer. So we're trying to think about an experience that it's not necessarily a concert. In fact, it's even better if it's not a concert, but what's an experience that we could create for Charlene that has music in it that's going to meet Charlene's needs to kind of stay cool as a cucumber. Maybe something with the dogs, and she's got teenage kids as well that she wants to connect with. So maybe you can put your brain to think about what you would put on if you were the boss of everything for Charlene.
Oh, like program for a recital or a concert?
We're actually flipping the script on that. And so we're not starting with the repertoire at all. We're starting on what would Charlene go to that's going to help encourage their mental health and well-being, that might help them connect with their children, that music is part of it, but we're not doing the concert thing and we're not starting with the repertoire. We're actually completely reversing the way we approach thinking about these things. Just have a think about it. You don't have to add, you don't have to come up with any answers right now.
That's a tough one. That's really interesting. I'll think about it. Yeah, and I apologize for showing up so late. I'll definitely get to rewatch the Zoom and understand everything. It's my birthday and I was like doing too many things, and so, but I will rewatch the Zoom and be caught up for the
now
next
you said it's your
round,
birthday,
so.
maybe we might have a quick sing song for you.
I think that's okay. Happy birthday in 4, please.
Or maybe you could,
Thank
or
you.
maybe there's some opera singers on the call. Maybe one of them could volunteer to sing and everyone could conduct along, Zoom conducting.
That's crazy and awesome and reminiscent of deep 2020.
Exactly. I'm just going to give the breakout room people a 1 minute. We're going to be really quick on this one. Just going to give them a 1 minute time check. I think, yep, we'll do that. So,
Caitlin, what'd you get up to for your birthday?
A little bit of dinner, a little bit of going to see a show for just theater, and I'm finally like going home. It ended so much later than I thought it would. I was like, I'll be home like right at 8, but it didn't happen. but yeah, just a very solid time, you know. Thanks for asking.
For my birthday, I've got my school band playing for a foster youth and foster family program. So that's why I'm spending my birthdays playing my
That's so
trumpet.
special. Yay!
Susan, should I close the rooms up?
Yep, I was just about to ask. That'd be great. Thank you. Just to make sure we finish on time.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Awesome. Is everybody back? Caitlin, can you see?
This is a couple more seconds,
Yeah, great.
like 20 more
Cool.
seconds, and then everyone
Yeah.
will be.
Easy.
When the room's closed, everyone tries to sneak in the last little bits of information.
It's always the way. All right, oh yeah, there's a few more still to come back, yeah. No, do we have everybody back? We got, great, fantastic. Thanks, everybody. I just wanted you to have this experience of seeing what it's like to not start with the repertoire, or to not start with the idea of a concert in your head. So I've put on if this has really got you thinking, oh, what other rules could I break? What else could I think about? I've just put it in the Padlet down here, some extra resources for you. So there's some stuff about me, because I'm a college professor, I am a professional French horn player, and I have a podcast about people who used to be in classical music who now own a kimchi food truck, or they're a lawyer, or they're a drag queen, or they're a garden designer, or they work in business. And some stuff about Ingrid, and some stuff about a lady called Aubrey Bergauer, who's sort of leading the charge on changing the way the business is working in classical music, and some stuff about Ruth Hart. So that's all in the Padlet for you there. If you're curious about like who are sort of the industry leaders thinking about what the future is going to be, top tip, they're all women, go us. And ideally I would really love to hear from each of you about kind of what this has sparked in you. But because we're such a big group today, instead I've just made a Padlet with 2 questions that I want you to reflect on. So if you can click on the link in the Padlet, and it will take you here, because good learning, good teaching is reflecting. So the 2 questions that I want you to respond to, and if you can click on the add comment down here where my cursor is. First question, what's something new you learned today? And secondly, how will you use what you've learned today? And there's no right or wrong answers. This is just a chance for you to think about what we've spent the last 40 minutes doing, so that it gets sticky in your brain, and you can, when you want to think of it again, you've got a stronger memory. So they're the 2 questions I've got for you of what is something new, and how will you learn what you've used? And we'll just do about 3 or 4 minutes. I think 3 or 4 minutes should be enough to get everybody in there. Just checking you can all get into that one okay? Yep, great. And I'll leave the share up there, the share screen, because it's really nice to see other people having a similar experience to what we did when we're learning new things.
I love the empowering animals, the polite spider and fearless koi.
Passionate beluga is winning for me today. Yeah, I'm loving this, everybody. This is fantastic. Oh, I'm loving Unusual Salamander. Thank you so much. I always feared approaching balancing a program, but the breakdown you showed makes it much less intimidating. I just want to say also, this is Ingrid's activity. So giving full credit, this is actually something that, and this is the way she approaches her programming. So even though I'm not a conductor, I also know as a player what it feels like to have a program that's both balanced in terms of representation, but also balanced emotionally. It makes it much more interesting for me, even if the repertoire might have lots of similarities, like maybe it's, you know, it's beginner band, so it's all only in 1 or 2 flats, and it's mostly 4/4. You can still get a lot more emotion out of it. So this is just absolutely fantastic. I'm going to take us back off sharing screen. And it's 21 past the hour. So if you're keeping typing, thank you so much. You've got the Padlet to reflect back to. You've got those resources to go on a deeper dive. Ingrid will probably, she's always available to have a chat about this stuff. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so willing to give up your time to an unknown person on the other side of the world at no notice. Hey, thanks. You're awesome. Over to you, Tanya and Caitlin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. So with our remaining time, Tanya, if we'll have you take over. This is our portion of time to check in with the mentors with specific questions. Since we do have Susan and Ingrid here, let's focus those questions towards them since they're not going to be joining us again, although Ingrid will be back for her rehearsal strategy session when we get that rescheduled. So Tanya, take.
All right, anybody want to start us off thinking about what we've learned today? Claire, go ahead.
Hi. So, as a student conductor, I think, especially today, since I was sort of left with the feeling, and in general, I've been learning this as well, that my role is to serve the music. It is to sort of embody what the music is and not, I'm trying to sort of detach myself from doing everything correctly or the right way, whether that be in like conducting itself and, oh, I have to cue these people, I have to help people here, and I have to look right, I have to look okay. Do you have any advice for someone who's still a student but wants to sort of break out of that confinement or that shell? Because I feel like that sort of mentality of, oh, I need to do it right, I need to sort of shift towards, oh, I need to serve the music and help people feel what I'm feeling. Do you have any tips on how to achieve that, whether that's physically and like a mentality or like any way possible?
Yeah, Susan, I think that's right up your alley. You want to give it a shot?
Oh, Claire, I want to say my name is Susan and I'm a recovering perfectionist. It's been 1 hour since my last perfection. I was freaking out about perfection before I got on this call. Perfection helps nobody. So a very practical way, instead of using the word perfect, is I try and think about what does excellence look like this today with the best that I've got to bring. So I try and actually define if I am going to be in that world, because we need to be in the world of accurate and correct and continuing to learn and grow. But if you can actually put a little bit of what would excellence look like this today, and if that in your in the rehearsal might be, I just want to make sure I'm consistently using the shape in my left hand that I've been practicing. And then after the rehearsal, it's okay, how did I go? My goal was to use that shape 3 times in Caitlin's, in a piece. So putting some clear definition about what excellence looks like might help break down the perfectionism. But I think that's a whole nother topic that would be really worth digging into is, and Ingrid, I think Ingrid, I'm just going to pass to another recovering perfectionist in the room. Yeah.
I'm going to try and use what little voice I have. I'll give you some ASMR with whispering talk here. The number one thing I could give you on this for all of you is know what you can and can't control. So we can't actually control what feelings other people get from the music. What we can control is what we show and what we say, and sharing our vision of the music with the ensemble. And even if we share something very specific, like, to me, this is a fairyland meadow in the twilight. That might not be what every player or singer is imagining, but you have given them a creative destination to come around together, and you are inspiring their creativity and their musicality, that will help them feel like they can bring something expressive too, and also get away from that being correct, which we've all spent a lot of my time learning how to do that part. So I think getting really clear on what your interpretive ideas are and what you're trying to say creatively with the music, and just understand that you will still try, we will all still try to control what other people think and feel and say, but we can't. So that's always a good thing to come back to.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Susan and Ingrid. Chloe, moving on to your question.
So, in terms of like creating a diverse program, I know that a lot of people are moving towards like inclusive composers, like moving away from old dead white guys and moving more towards like everyone else. So, when you guys are programming, do you guys look at the composer or do you look at the music and then if it doesn't fall, like, do you guys look at the composers to make it diverse, or do you look at like the type of music to make it diverse? Can you like walk me through that a little bit?
Caitlin, why don't you take that first?
I think it's important for the audience to hear the contrast of styles of music, but that it's important for everybody to be exposed to music from different composers from different backgrounds, nationalities, genders, sexualities, you know, because it just enhances like the experience and being able to learn from each other. So what I try to do is just I need to know as many composers as possible and know as much as their repertoire as possible, so that when I'm creating a piece, a concert that has those contrasting moments in it, that I can select music that I know is coming from diverse composers. I do not want to be in a situation where I'm picking music from diverse composers and then it like ends up all kind of sounding the same, or it's like not music that's very good or that I don't believe in, because then I'm going to give everybody a bad experience. And then some people may walk away being slightly more racist or sexist or what have you, because I didn't deliver the music in the context they needed to shift in the other direction.
Absolutely. And I think, just to add on to that, like also I think a lot about the different perspectives and experience that people bring to the table when they're writing music. I am not a composer, but I do think deeply about like the way that music represents experiences. So because of that, I think like Caitlin is saying is that we want a kind of a variety and we want quality music. So in that way, different perspective really, really bring, come to life in that aspect. And I think a lot about how I program in terms of like, going to a museum. When you go walk into a museum, you see all of these art, but like who's the one that chose all of these art that's in at the Met, right? Is it, like, and where is all the other art that's like tucked away in a basement somewhere, right? You kind of have to think also like you are the person now that has the power to do that. And I think that's incredibly powerful and empowering that you know, to acknowledge that you do have that responsibility in your role, to be able to be the one that chooses and uplifts these voices. So I certainly, like, you know, I look at the artistry, but the different perspectives, to me, I think because of that, then it really invites to the table the voices of people who are diverse. And I think, Chloe, that's a really, really beautiful question. We are at time on the dot. Caitlin, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much to Susan and Ingrid for being here. Can we show some sort of appreciation in any kind of way? This was an amazing, amazing activity that you did for us today, and I'm so inspired. I hope everyone else is as well. I have just thrown into the chat a link that I will also share on email immediately following. This is an opportunity for you to let us know if you know your schedule coming up for the spring. We're going to meet in January, February, March, and April. Those dates are already picked and those sessions and topics are already decided, but we do need to add one more session for Ingrid to make up her session on rehearsal strategies. So to do that, let's hear from you, your availability. So if you go to that link or now or later when I send it as an email, you can let us know this time frame, because we're going to keep the time frame, what day of the week works best for you between Sunday and Saturday. And then we'll check with Ingrid's schedule, my schedule, and Tanya's schedule, and make sure that we can pick a day of the week for that makeup session that works for the most people. Thank you so much for that. And can we also get a happy birthday for Caitlin, not me, the other Caitlin, who showed up a little bit late after her show got out. Happy birthday, Caitlin. We're so glad that you're here as well. If anybody does want to stick around for a minute or two, Susan and Ingrid, I'm not sure if you have to run, but if you have a desperate question for them that you want to take care of before we end tonight, then feel free to do so. But otherwise, you're free to head out, and we will see you not next month in December because we're also busy as musicians in December, but we'll meet on January 14th. Same Zoom link and everything like that, and I'll send you an email with all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday season. Stay safe, drink lots of water, and we'll see you in January. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Look at all those happy birthdays.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Okay, nobody stuck around. That's fine. They're like,
All right. I'm starving. Thank you so much, y'all, for coming, like, and making this happen. This was amazing. I learned so much.
Me too. I need to start using those Padlets. Those are so cool.
Oh, yeah, it's a game changer. We've got a friend of ours, Juliana Kay, who's a composer. She's a choral person, but she in lockdown wrote a piece using Padlet and samples, and it was a very, very clever compositional tool, wasn't it, Ingrid? Yeah, and we ended up then the orchestra, they're actually having their 80th birthday concert next week. And that's one of the 6 pieces they programmed as like all-time bangers, was this piece called Hen House, that's got chickens and car keys and I think you would like a great beginner orchestra piece. Very fun. Yeah. That the orchestra wrote with her in lockdown. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, Tanya, your kids would absolutely love it.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask more for more the link to that. That's so cool.
I just get careful with Padlets and stuff like that because I teach some high school kids in my college program, and they like to write skibbity toilet when it's anonymous up on the board. So
what?
Yep, that's what I'm dealing with.
It also happens at college. I did a first year thing this year, and some of them, it was in the big hall, and some of them took a photo of me and posted it up on the Padlet on the big screen in the hall. And I was like, you douchebags. Like, if I did this to you, I would have been freaking cancelled. But just because I'm an old middle-aged white person, you think it's all right. Bogans. Anyway, yes, of course it was boys, the jazz boys, morons. Moronic behavior, I should say. They're not moronic people. They were exhibiting moronic behavior. Thank you so much for thank you for saying yes. Really appreciate the community and the invitation.
And Susan, I'd love to get you to work with my music majors at our music major class in the spring. So I'm gonna hit you up about that.
Yeah, let me know. Just to let you, super quick before you know, I know you said, Tanya, you were really hungry. Just to let you know, I've got a big change in my work coming next year. I'm going down to only 2 days at college because I'm intending to start a PhD. and it's going to be on the impact of trauma on workplace culture and learning in classical music. So I'm going to be basically writing a trauma-informed toolkit for large ensembles because no one's talking about it. So that's I'll keep you posted, but I'm just waiting to get the offers through at the moment.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So if anyone comes in your radar that's in that, they're just sort of, it's not an area that I can find anybody working in at the moment.
I know
So
someone.
who?
So his name is Eric Walden. He's the music therapy chair at University of the Pacific where I went to school, and we've been working on some kind of SEL, right? Like the social emotional learning, and also like music, like little tip into music therapy in an ensemble setting. So we did a project like 2 years ago, and we're presenting on like a follow-up on that this coming January.
Right, I will check him out. I'm coming at it from slightly the different end of the processes of
Oh, of course,
organizing the ensemble. But that is awesome. I will absolutely check him out. Thank you. Is it EWERIC, Walden?
Walden, WALDON, and
Beautiful.
Eric is ERIC. Yeah.
Beautiful. I will check. He sounds like an excellent human being. Thank you.
Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Ingrid. We hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, feel
Thank you
better.
for bringing your wife.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.